On 2014, March 14th, I found this caterpillar roaming on the sidewalk, just inching along at 7 p.m. It was on the pavement, but there are lawns nearby, and it's mostly landscaping nearby. So there is a kind of an interface between the landscaping and the wild. But, I don't really know where this caterpillar came from or what it was eating. So I brought it home, had it captive for less than 24 hours. And as you can see here, it kind of moves, kind of waves of compression. Not like an inchworm. It's not arcing or anything, but, it's really hard to see actually because it's so fuzzy. So I did a lot of research online, and it's been a few days, and I'm not really giving up, but at the same time I have to move on and produce other videos, so I just wanted to get this out there. So if any of you are caterpillar experts and you can ID this caterpillar correctly, I'd be very grateful, and I'll probably just republish a video with proper narration regarding all, neat factoids as to what this species is and what it can do. But at first I thought it was a woolly bear caterpillar, but then it doesn't have that brown stripe in the middle. And some people will post pictures and videos online where they have so-called all-black woolly bear caterpillars. So I'm not sure if those are of different species or misidentifications or what, or is it just another rarer phenotype. Then I thought this might be the Isabella tiger moth caterpillar, and later on the salt marsh caterpillar. So I'm not quite sure which one it is. Photos I've seen online can only do so much for me. I've seen caterpillars that resemble this, but instead of rings of red knobs with black hairs densely emanating, they have rings of black knobs. And this one has black bands in between those rings of knobs that you can see if it curls up into a defensive ball. But, the pictures I saw have red bands instead of black bands. And this one has a red head instead of a darker head, black head for instance. So it's kind of inside out in that sense for the color scheme. And that makes me unsure as to what this is. So, it's a very, it's actually pretty cute, but maybe not if you zoom in like this and you're afraid of bugs, but, at a distance, it's just this little fuzzy thing, kind of like a woolly bear caterpillar. And, I was thinking about what to feed it and how long to keep it captive. And I was thinking the best way would be to just keep feeding it if I could find a decent food source for it until it finally pupated. And then I would see what kind of moth or butterfly came out. So operating under the assumption that this was a woolly bear caterpillar, I decided to go outside and pluck some grass at night to see if it would feed on that, as well as be on the lookout for some forbs, little herb-like plants that tend to grow around in the chaparral. But I couldn't find anything convenient nearby, and I looked around at all the trees and shrubs near where I found this caterpillar, and I couldn't find anything that just outright had holes on it suggesting predation. So I just brought back this grass, and amazingly enough, it started eating. It's chewing on the driest, toughest part of this stalk of grass, or maybe to the caterpillar, that could be a juicy part. Maybe there's more water down there. Just by the coloration, it looks drier. So it's always fun to watch caterpillars eat, and I really enjoyed keeping this as a pet for less than a day. The reason I only kept it for less than a day was because afterwards, just after a few hours, the grass started losing its turgor pressure. It became dry, more like hay, and then the caterpillar didn't want to eat also. It was around bedtime, so, from 8 to p.m., the caterpillar just became more sluggish despite being under bright LED light here. And, if I nudge it like that, then it'll start eating again. But after it finishes another blade of grass, it just wants to go motionless and sleep. So I think these caterpillars like to sleep around 8 to 9 p.m., around that time range, around this time of year. And afterwards, I just, put it in a little jar with the grass and kept it overnight in a dark place. And I swear I could hear like little nibbling noises. You can hear these things eat. Especially if you have a lot of caterpillars at once and they're all hungry and you suddenly throw in vegetation, then they'll all go crazy eating, and it's very audible from a distance. So I thought I heard them eating while I was still in bed on Saturday around 8 a.m. So I think these caterpillars sleep a lot, probably around 11 or 12 hours, I'm not sure. So that dropping you see behind the caterpillar came from the food it was eating before. Now I'm not sure how long it takes for caterpillars to digest, but all the subsequent droppings that occurred after this footage and throughout the night were like shriveled up clumps of grass, basically like miniature bales of hay. So they look quite different. They're not brown like that piece right there. They were just green and wrinkled blades of grass basically that had been digested. And that makes me think it wasn't eating grass before this, but I've only seen this caterpillar eat grass. After I let it go, it was also eating grass. So I'm just kind of curious as to what it was eating beforehand. So as I said, I heard this caterpillar eating at 8 a.m. the next day on Saturday, although that could have just been me imagining things. And I woke up much later because it was a Saturday. I went hiking. I found some forbs. I took leaves from 3 different species and brought them home for this caterpillar to try out. And it sniffed them and sampled one of them, but it wasn't interested in eating any of them. It would just take a few bites and then go looking for other things. So it didn't like any of the 3 forbs that I had bought it, and because of that I decided to let it go. It had been less than 24 hours, and the moment I opened my door with this caterpillar on a big plastic tray, it started picking up the scents in the wind of all the plants that were in the neighborhood, and it was looking around. And this was on the 3rd floor in the middle of a concrete hallway. So there's something to be said for animals having sensory input and constant stimulation as they would in the wild, because once you make them captive and you put them in a synthetic environment that they're not evolved to deal with, then they just don't really know what to do. They kind of veg out and seem like they're in a catatonic state. And as soon as I took it outside and dumped it on a fresh lawn, it started eating grass again. So I didn't know what it did after that. I just walked away after watching it eat for a while. I really wanted to raise this caterpillar until adulthood just so I could see for sure what species of moth it was, but it was so unhealthy looking and it wasn't behaving right in the less than 24 hours I had it captive inside my apartment. So I figured I wasn't up to the task. I didn't know what its native foods are. I have a feeling that grass is maybe not its optimal food. And there's also the issue of having daily or even more frequent supplies of fresh leaves, because caterpillars like to eat fresh food. They get all their water from these leaves. They don't drink standing water. And then I thought about the logistics of having forbs uprooted with their roots and soaking in water to keep them alive for a long time as the caterpillar would munch on them, but it just seemed like a very daunting task when I didn't even have a certain species ID. So if you're a caterpillar expert watching this and you can provide some information along with some supporting statements as to why you believe this is the species you think it is, I would be very grateful. Sometimes people just throw out the species name in a post, and if I look at a bunch of pictures on Google and it doesn't match any of those, I'm not really inclined to change anything until I get a lot of answers that are the same, or at least just one really detailed one. So please help if you can. If not, you can enjoy more than 10 minutes of this video beyond this point of watching this caterpillar eat. I think it's very attractive animal in its own right. So thanks for watching. Please comment and subscribe, and check out the rest of my channel.